Namaskar, Sairam. Welcome to this session on mind management. Before we start, let's start with our prayer. O Lord, take my love and let it flow in fullness of devotion to Thee. O Lord, take my hands and let them work incessantly for Thee. O Lord, take my soul and let it be merged in one with Thee. O Lord, take my mind and thoughts and let them be in tune with Thee. O Lord, take my everything and let me be an instrument to work for Thee. Welcome once again. As I venture into this topic, I would like to humbly state at the very outset this is a this is a very big topic to even address, and it has many shades and many flavors to it. So, in no way this presentation or this session is going to be a comprehensive illustration or examples or the depiction of mind per se. And it's my humble attempt to present to you whatever little I have gained and learned from a master, to present to you this concept of mind from a very practical perspective, to understand its relevance in our lives and take it forward from there. At the very outset, I would like to tell you that mind is one topic which has literally puzzled humankind for generations, for ages. It is one thing which you cannot see, you cannot touch, but you cannot deny. So people who say that seeing is believing, even they would agree that they have mind. Nobody would deny this fact that there is something which exists, what we call man or mind. Now, what is this mind to start with? As I take you through the logistics or the attributes of mind and how it comes and what it plays role in our life, it is good to have just a understanding from an absolute term. In life, there are two perspectives to understand. One is an absolute concept, and one is the relative concept. Relative concept literally comes from our body consciousness and the way we deal with life. So as long as we are in this relative world, we are in a relative body. which is fine. But our goal is to reach towards absolute. Hence, the understanding, a broad understanding of an absolute concept is needed so that we understand what is our goal and where we have to achieve or arrive at. So, what is this mind as we understand? In a very simple way, our master puts it as bundle of thoughts. Very simple. So, what is mind? Bundle of thoughts. What is this thought? If you really go further into the contemplate on this concept of thought, what is this? Thought is nothing but a vibrancy, energy. It is a projection, is a manifestation out of energy. And where does that energy come from? It comes from that attributes, as we call, as we know it, as three attributes, trigunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. The pure and subtle, aggressive and dominant, and lethargic and inactive. These three attributes are responsible for thought. And these three attributes come from radiation and vibration. That vibration comes from the energy source, what we call the point. So, if you really understand and look at it from an absolute term, from the basic absolute energy, when it fluctuated because of its nature of love, that frequency, that fluctuation gave birth to three attributes. So, the more aggressive, more pure, and more lethargic. So, sattva, rajas, and tamas came out. From that fluctuation, vibration happened, and through that, radiation happened. And then these frequencies were created, and these frequencies are called thoughts. Like we capture Ved. Ved is a thought of God, as they say, because it is pervading everywhere. Hence, that is also a thought of God. So, this thought manifested itself as mind. When these thoughts get accumulated in one place, this manifestation is this projection of the universe. So, whatever universe we see, the whatever world we see around, is nothing but a projection of mind. So, in that way, mind is everywhere. In this whole visible manifestation, there is nothing but mind. This man, which originates from an absolute term, everything is pervaded, is suffused, is called mind. From that mind comes this manifestation, which is nothing but a projection. So, this world is a projection of the mind, which comes from vibrations, so trigunas, and then you reach the source. So, that is an absolute understanding. Now, in this flow, if you look at it, this mind, which is the pervasive energy, the thought of the creator, is in the smaller form, manifests in each and every part of the creation, including us. So that mana, that mind, that supreme consciousness, we look at it from that perspective also. So that supreme mind is in us as a manifestation of this body, this form, this energy becomes our mind, what we identify. So that is an absolute concept, which if once we understand that, then the relative world does not exist. The moment we understand the gimmick of the mind, then the projection of the mind, which is the world, does not have any influence on us. So we got it. Now that mind is in us. So now the journey starts. That what is that mind which is representing us, this individual self? So the same game is happening from the absolute term, is happening within us and in this manifested world. So this mind is within us also. Now there is no specific point to say where is this mind. This is the beauty of the mind. But nobody can deny the existence and the potency of mind. This is the mind which manifests, which resides in our subtle body, as we discussed in our last session, the gross body, subtle body, and the causal body. This mind in a manifested form resides over the subtle body. And because of that, the physical body, the gross body, is the projection of the subtle body and is also the cause for the causal body. Now, this is the combination which we are now going to look at a little bit more in a conscious manner. So let me bring you a little bit of, I'll show you some slides just to take you through the journey. Now, if we have gone through this, you will look at it as that supreme energy which I talked about. And in the Eastern concept, we always use the term Atman for that. Now, that is also a miniature within ourselves. And from there, that mind comes. Now, mind has two basic attributes, or it's constituted of two things, and that is important. The first one is called vasanas, or impulses. And it is English is not a perfect language to translate Sanskrit, but this is the best word we found. So vasana is first, and the second is prana shakti, which is the life force. Now, please don't confuse prana shakti with breathing. Breath is not prana shakti, but breath is a manifested form of prana shakti. So it is and it is not. So you have two aspects of mind. One is vasanas and one is prana. What are these impulses? Now, this is what we have to see, that how the impulses operate and feed to prana, and how does prana's movement gives impulses. See, if you don't act, if you don't see, there will be no input to the being. And if there is no input to the being, there is no need for seeing. So they are interrelated, interconnected. So that is why you have this mind which has got this feeding of impulses and prana shakti, which is your life force. So let us look at vasanas one by one. Now, vasanas actually reminds you of pleasure, agitating memories of the past. See, these are sedimentations. So as I said to you, these are bundle of thoughts makes mind, right? So these vasanas are when these memories accumulation keeps taking place. So these impulses are when they touch upon that, and it gives you that, they reminds you of the pleasure, agitation because of the memory bank. So you start going back to your memory, you start going back to what you experienced, and these are the sedimentations. If the sedimentation doesn't happen, you will be always pure bliss. But because we can't help it, we don't know how to live without taking baggages, without garbaging ourselves, without putting the layers of our memories, and we feel that every experience add to our charm, but unfortunately it is also the cause of our bondages, because it actually becomes a layer after layer on our causal body. So that is why it, what does the indication of vasanas? It reminds you of pleasure, agitations of the past memories. And it vasanas also restart craving, makes the mind to act to accumulate things we crave for. So basically, it, because it reminds you, it, if you have not dealt with it properly, if you haven't learned, if we have not trained ourselves to sublimate our feelings and desires, then it will restart the craving. So that is the attribute of vasanas, and it operates very subtly and powerfully. We won't even know. Sometimes we may think that I don't need it, I don't crave it, I don't want it. But somehow, in the deepest sense, it is there and it manifests in some other form. So, vasanas are subtle and powerful. And it is also like a seed. So, even if one thought is lingering in your consciousness, in your being, in your mind, that thought can multiply. That thought can trigger and take you into multiple successive manifestations. So your desire to have a comfortable life can lead you into chasing your life for job, accumulation of money, buying a house. It can manifest in many ways. So you have to be careful that it is a seed. Never think that I have only one thought or I have one impulses. We can't help it because these are the indicators to tell us that these are like seeds. And in that seed, whatever seed you put in yourself, whatever thought you have entertained, it is bound to flower, it is bound to manifest. Without these impulses, mind is pellucid and pure. Actually, these accumulation is the causal body. So this causal is the cause for our manifestation or remanifestation. So if these impulses are removed, if we learn how to clean ourselves, how to remove these impulses, then our mind will become lucid and pure, and which will reflect our true self in perfect manner. And it changes with the quality of impulses. Obviously, as I was sharing before, that because it is the mind is manifestation of these three gunas, these three attributes of purity, aggression, and lethargy. So it also changes its shape and form based on what kind of impulses do we feed in ourselves. So now we look at vasanas from a perspective to understand what does vasana contain. And in the meantime, as I'm going forward, if any thought comes to you, any question comes to you, you're please welcome to present it. I hope I'm not running, but this topic is a very interesting, but it requires a bit of contemplation later on. So this slides I'm presenting here, it will remain on the slide, so you can even look at it later on also. So let's continue. Vasanas are of two types, and that is what we need to look at it. One is called the pure impulses, which is shubha vasana, and another is impure impulses, which is ashubha vasana. Now, if we understand them, then we will also look at it to understand how can we clean it up. So, in let us look at the first pure ones. So, pure vasanas originate from good association, noble association. So, if you are in the company of noble being, that's called satsang in Sanskrit. Sat is true and noble, and sang is association. So if you are in that pure impulsive, pure association surroundings, then obviously the impulses which you will receive and accumulate will be pure. Second is reverence for good and great. So if you have that attitude, attitude of reverence, attitude to be good, attitude of obedience, that also adds to the pure impulses. So if some elder tells us something, or if our parents say something, or anything like that, and the way we receive it, if it is with obedience or with reverence, that adds to the pure impulses. And the third is charity, fortitude. So if you do an amount of service, what we do, social service, we go and serve people, or we have loving affectionate activities, or we show the courage, all these positive attributes add to our pure impulses. So all the people, especially today when our corona, it is spreading all over the world, and many people are engaging into many selfless tasks. People are feeding people are helping, serving our medical community, our police and other, there are so many people who are into this, selfless service at this point of time. So all that is certainly going to include or improve upon our pure impulses, our Shubha Vasanas. So that also is a cover, but it is a good cover. At least it does not create an what should I say, a fuzzy feeling around you. It gives you a pleasant feeling. So pure impulses are good. Then let us look at what is Ashubh Vasanas. What do we understand or call as impure? See, this is a very beautiful, beautiful thing to look at it. The first one is worldly impulses. Now, this is a very common thing which we will see in ourselves. See, the craving for glory, the craving for power or authority, the desire that I want to become something, people should acknowledge me for my act. I should have people under me to work. I must have people who can look up to me. See, these kind of power, desire, glory, at a stage it looks nice, but please, we have to be mindful that they actually add up to the impulses which can become harmful and negative for all of us. Because the craving, a craving for any such thing, whether it is glory, power, or authority, it certainly adds up to many other things. And slowly, slowly, the chain becomes so heavy that this will harm the pure impulses. So, worldly impulses are the first one. The second one is physical impulses. See, the physical impulses are the craving for beautiful physique, a muscular and a sturdy body, and people do a lot of therapies and operations to get to look younger every day. See, the desire for a well trimmed body, a desire for presentable look is not wrong, but keeping in mind that attachment to that or bent towards that or to live for it, that creates an impulse that is defined as physical impulses, which can lead to impure impulses, ashubh vasanas. So having a good body is a necessity, but attaching yourself and giving importance and killing yourself to get a good body becomes an impure impulse. So this is the beauty of understanding that how these impulses become impure. So working towards a perfection and thereby gaining glory, gaining authority is good. But working for glory and working for power makes it impure impulses. So, this is the catch we need to understand. And the third one is scholarly impulses. I feel this is the most, personally, I feel that this is most subtle and very dangerous because we don't know when this will turn negative. Because the craving to be known as an expert and the inner feeling to defeat everybody, that I am the best in this line. See, when we study, we become the best. When we meditate and we become the best. When we contemplate and explore and research and become the best, that is one thing. But when we crave to become an expert, when we crave to defeat others, when we have a desire to be known as the most intelligent person, then the impulses become impure. Now these are the two broad things. If we understand, if we can look at it and contemplate on these two, then we understand how our causal body gets sedimentation. So either we are feeding it with pure or with impure. Both are sedimentation. So master says very beautifully, in fact at the end he declares that both are to be removed. Because even if the pure impulses are good impulses, because they will not leave any kind of thick sedimentation and hurt, but it is still an obstruction. You cannot feel the glory of your own self unless there is no obstruction at all. Whether there is a thin layer of cloth in front of you, or whether there is a a thick cloth in front of you, both are obstructions. So what he explains in a very beautiful manner is that you need pure impulses to remove impure impulses, because only when we, it's like thorn, you use one thorn to remove another thorn, but once you have removed the other thorn, you don't carry that thorn with you to home. You throw this thorn also. So both are kind of thorns, but the beauty is that we use the pure impulses to remove impure impulses, and then ultimately give up the pure impulses too, to arrive at ourselves, to face, to see ourselves face to face. And that is the beauty of this whole equation, that how do we understand what is hindering, what is obstructing our growth, what is obstructing our self realization, what is obstructing our joy and fulfillment, and how do I play with that. So while doing the whole work in the relative world, while going through your duties and responsibility in the relative world, how do we move to the absolute realm? How do we enjoy the absolute peace and harmony and satisfaction of life? So that is the catch, and that is where this explanation comes very handy. So now let us look at the other part, which is life force, the prana shakti. Okay, now in prana shakti, the first thing which is manifested, which we can experience, is breath. So you see, we are breathing. Every so called living being breathes. So that is the first introduction to our life. Now, breath is a very uh, interesting phenomena, if I may put it in that way. This breath, as they say, our life is calculated based on our breath cycles, not based on our days. This breath depends on what we intake. See, when you eat something, for example, if you eat something very strong, like spicy, you will see that your breathing may go harder. If you see something very aggressive, like violence or any such which stimulates your senses, your breathing cycle will go higher. But if you see a serenity, if you see a fish aquarium or an ocean, you will see that your cycle keeps going down. So breath is the prana, which is a first manifestation, but it is a very beautiful indicator of how it helps to experience and manifest mind. So as we understand that the thoughts, bundle of thought is mind, so the first manifestation of the prana cycle is breath. So basically, breathing is correlated with the thoughts, and thoughts are manifested through the intake which we have in ourselves, through our five senses, not only from our food. Food becomes the major constitution because it goes inside and remains there for some time. So the impact of the food gets manifested more. Hence, we look after food more. But we should not forget the definition of food is anything we intake by our five senses. So that food actually converts into our breath cycle. So if you eat, if you intake sattvic, positive things, then your breath cycle will remain constant. If you take aggressive thing, it will increase. If you eat something which is tamasic or lethargic or full of different emotions, lower emotions, like animal food, if I may put it like that, then obviously your breath cycle may go down because you will feel so slothy, and that will happen. So breath is also dependent on thought, and which manifests as mind. So your mind is also impacted by your food and breathing. So that is why the second aspect of what constitutes mind is also breath. So we have looked at in last session also a little bit about breath cycles and all that. Now from breath cycles, we understand the sequence in pranayam. Pranayam, when we say it is, I couldn't find a better word. That's why I left it at pranayam, because it is an ayam is like managing the prana. It is how you regulate the prana. So in yogic terms, they even teach us, they teach how to control this cycle, how to regulate it, and how to tune it as per your needs and desires. See, if I want to live longer, I can learn breath cycles which will give me that. If I want to sleep less, my breath cycles can help me to do that also. If I want to have a better physical frame, then my breath cycle can help. So there is a lot of things which pranayam itself can do. It can increase your capacity of breathing. It can do a lot of things. It can generate. So if we practice, like that's what I have learned. But unfortunately, this knowledge comes at different stages of life. So practicing is one thing, but here I'm trying to share this thing, that how this whole concept adds up to become our mind, what we are. So pranayam, from breathing we come to pranayam, and then we discussed about mindfulness. When we become conscious of our breath, that is called mindfulness. When we are aware of every breath cycle, what is happening, and that leads to that. And once we are conscious fully 24/7 about our personality, our being, about every action which happens to us, and that we'll realize, then we have, these are all stages to prana, which is manifested as the quality of mind we carry. And that is, these are the two aspects. So if you look at it, to understand what is from the mind's perspective. Now there is another dimension which we have to look at it, is what clouds it. Why are we not able to jump from this understanding of relative to the absolute? Why are we not able to understand this difference of what constitutes mind, and why are we narrowly binding ourselves, limiting ourselves to this understanding? Now this is what is normally addressed as ignorance or agyan. They call it agyan. Agyan means lack of knowledge or wisdom. Now, what is this agyan? This agyan is, from a core of it, if we really understand it, basically it stems from the concept of duality, which is in each one of us is understood as ego. When I say I exist, that means I am different, you are different. And this is our normal relative concept, which we all think and work. If we don't have this body consciousness, this whole concept will be irrelevant. So the whole ignorance is summarized as ego and duality. So basically, if we, the whole game of knowledge, education, wisdom is to understand that there is no two, there's only one. Now, this our master has explained to us million times, and I really hope and wish that before I kick the bucket, I can also experience this beautiful joy of oneness. So, this ignorance of duality is the key to understand. And this duality creates impulses, and this creates attachment. Impulses we have seen, the same, the cycle again continues there also. And in that attachment, attachment brings fear, which leads to worry, and which leads to ignorance, desires, and the feeling of me and mine. And this is the cycle which keeps continuing. See, it's my body, my house, my family. Once you have this my problem and attachment, fear is a natural outcome. When you have fear, you have worry. So it is not that it goes in this chain only. Basically, these are all interrelated. So anything can lead to anything. So these are in cyclic formation, that everything happens, whether when you have any one of these, and they all stem from attachment. So if you have attachment to your body, which is the cause of duality, so duality gives attachment, attachment gives you everything, the feeling of mind, the fear, the worry, the ignorance, everything comes from there. Now we can look at this whole concept in a relative way, but if we have time, then we'll jump into that and explore it slightly more. So this is the whole gamut of mind. Now it starts from this cosmic thing, which I explained to you, Atman, and just to give you a full spectrum. So this is what the mind is made up of. So Shubha Vasanas, impure Vasanas, and then you have the life force. And why we are not able to do it is because of ignorance. And the ignorance is coming from selfishness or ego, and which has got two dimensions again. One are the vasanas, impulses, and another is attachment. And the attachment leads into all of these factors, which ultimately comes back again to the lack of faith. So once we understand the concept of absolute Atman, or the oneness with universality, then obviously all these attachments will disappear, and the concept of ego will not be there, and then it will again come back to that. So this is the whole chain, if you look at it from that perspective. So in a very in a very broad way, that's why I said to you, it is no way a complete explanation of mind, but this is how I have understood. And in my little study and research, that I realized that whatever in life we do is basically falls in this gamut of understanding. And if we understand that not to get attached or give importance to impure impulses, and not to own the pure impulses. See, the attachment towards impure impulses will certainly bind us and trap us, but equal trap is with the pure impulses too, that I am doing charity, that my name should come up because I have served some 100 people, or I have done something great, I have made some contributions. See, all of that also is a hindrance. So not to have attachment or expectation from the pure impulses, and not to have expectation and attachment towards impure impulses, or to avoid them, is the game of life. If we keep these two in the cyclic thought, and this is what I feel is the part of when you talk about the breath cycles and pranayama and mindfulness and CIA, then we realize that this is what we are supposed to really think about all the time and keep in mind as we move forward in life. So from there, let me take you now. There are many scholars who have studied mind, who have given us beautiful definitions and explanations to it. So I'm going to take you through this journey of mind from a practical understanding perspective. Now, when you keep this in mind, that what happens when we start entertaining the lower or impure impulses. See, when your stress, when our stress becomes impure impulses to the maximum, suppose you keep pure and impure together, and if you really compare it, then the first thing, which is the lowest level, is the demonic or the lower mind. Some people, they have a terminologies in English, they call it lower mind. Suppose we say lower mind, that it's called a demonic minds. And in our mythology also, you have the classification of people, that he's a demon, he's an a devil, or he's an god, he's a demigod, he's a gandharva. So there are different classification of people. So we will look at it from our perspective to see where does this mind go, when, how do we use the impulses, and how, what happens to our mind. So when our impure impulses are more stronger, then we look at the lower mind, then we are at the stage of demonic thinking, and the response to that is over gratification and slavery. See, there is no, never we say no to thing. You will eat uncontrollable. There is nothing. Even if you just had it and you see something beautiful, delicious coming forward, you'll again pounce on it. So that is an over gratification attitude in which there is no limit. And that is explained as sensual subordination. So basically, at this stage, what happens is in the demonic stage of mind, we are enslaved with over gratification. We are trying to fulfill, or there's no like a control, or there is no restrictions to our gratification, and that is called sensual subordination. Then if you take further step, that is called an ordinary mind, which is basically an animalistic. Sometimes our animals show a wonderful response factors. We see some videos also how they respond to each other. It's amazing. But let us talk it from the normal way. So it's ordinary mind, the next level, which which actually qualifies as gratification. So basically, I need something, I want it. So I am hungry, I need it. So there is no waiting. Even though I will not eat more than required, but I need it. So gratification is required. I like something, I want it. So I want a gratification. Like a child says, I want a chocolate. And if you don't give it, he makes hell. And that is called ordinary mind, because that is what it is. You see and you want to fulfill it. So I want to see this movie, I want to see it right now. So gratification is the key indicator that you want gratification, not over gratification. I had my meal, so I'm comfortable. That is animal. See, like a lion or somebody who's hungry, they go and hunt. But once they have eaten, then even a deer can walk by and they won't buzz. I was myself shocked. When I went to South Africa, I happened to go to a safari, and I was really amazed to see this animals behave so perfectly. There was, lion and leopard resting under the tree. We were a bit late in the afternoon, and I was shocked that hardly few yards away there was a small pond, and some deer and things where they were having water. And I was surprised that there are two ferocious, animals sitting there. Why can't they just jump and eat? But I was told that they already finished. And as long as they don't get hungry, they will not get up. So there was an amazing eye opener for me to see that in a real sense. I had heard about it, but it's different to hear and one thing to see it. And I was so amazed and impressed that, my God, we humans don't have constraint. We had it, we want to hold it for the tomorrow and day after, and I don't know when, what all. But here is a ferocious lion and tiger sitting, and they are unconcerned. And I asked the guide also at that time, and they said to me that they don't eat every day also many times if they had a good meal. So even if they had a good meal, that means if 2 days they don't need food, they will not chase anybody. So can you imagine a deer passing by and they're safe? But when he's hungry, early morning he gets up and starts off. So once he finishes his fight, that's it, done. So that is why it's called animalistic, ordinary mind, which craves for gratification. And the indicator is instinctive response. So it's an instinct. I'm hungry, I want it. There's no waiting. And that is what defines the ordinary mind. Then comes the human mind. The human mind has a certain amount of control. We can control. We are not like animals that's who want food and they just go berserk because of that. We can say, okay, I'm hungry, let me reach home and I will eat. Or I want this, I want to hear a music, so let me sit in my room comfortably in my bed, then I will listen. So I, as a human being, am able to control, and that control, that is defined as a sense control. So now in human mind, we exhibit certain amount of sensual control, and there comes the act of discrimination. So when the control is possible only when you discriminate, that do I need it or not. Do I want it or not? Or do I want it? Yes, but I can wait for 5 minutes, or I can wait for 10 minutes, or whatever. So there is a delayed gratification possible in human mind condition. So human mind represents sense control, and that is defined as discriminatory action. Then from there we rise to human mind sublimation. There is superhuman mind actually. I should have written that superhuman mind, which is actually sublimation. Now in the superhuman mind, you are exhibiting certain amount of sense management. Now there is a concept of sublimation, not control or suppression. There's a difference between suppression and sublimation. Suppression is when you are stopping by force. Sublimation is when you have understood the need, and then you logically or internally make yourself comfortable in not getting it. So the sublimation is a very subtle process. It does not leave a residue. Suppression leaves a residue. So sense management comes, when I say management, it is because control, when we talk about sense control, it is like, okay, I don't want it. But the management is, okay, why I don't want it? And then the discussion goes a little bit higher, and that actually leads into the intuitive behavior. When you start managing yourself by understanding that I need it or not? What do I do with that? And why am I craving for it? Can I survive without it? So these kind of thoughts, because if your focus is moving forward, like I always to give a humorous example, suppose you want to go from point A to point B, and the time taken normally is say 6 hours, and on the way you have coffee breaks and tea breaks and all that. So you stop somewhere to have a coffee. You have an option: either you can drive straight away, that is, you don't feel hungry, or you want to control your hunger and move on, or you can say, okay, I don't think I need it right now, I can have it little later. That is also a possibility. Or you have good food in the beginning, so at the end, in the middle, you don't need to stop really for heavy meals, so you can move faster, and you won't get exhausted by the time you reach. So these are very ways you can reach there. But at the same time, you understand that every stop you're making, how beautiful the toilet is, or how beautiful the coffee shop is, you can't make it at home. So you have to move forward, and that is the beauty of understanding that how do we move forward from sense control to sense management. And that is reflected and defined as an intuitive behavior, where you start now showcasing yourself as everything is not logical there, but it is stemming from logic, it is stemming from your experiences. And then comes the supermind level of awareness, where things happen. That is an intuitive living. I call it an intuitive living state, because there you don't need to consciously do things. In the supermind or overmind, as they call it, it's a state of awareness where things happen, and you become part of an observer. As they say in Sanskrit, you are drishta. You just observe, and things happen. For example, you are, the hairs grow. I don't say that I am making it grow. It grows, and I observe it. I don't breathe. Breathing happens. So imagine my taking an ownership of breath, that I am going to breathe today. So can I stop my breathing tomorrow? I cannot. So but we try to do all the breathing exercises just to feel that I'm controlling my breath. See, that is how the whole cycle of awareness keeps going. And when you reach an overmind state, which is a conscious living state, in that super conscious living state, you realize that literally the world is moving in a beautiful divine symphony, and you are naturally supposed to do things which will happen. And then your life and living becomes a perfect harmonious sync with the life. And there is no obstructions, there is no need for sense control, there is no need for checking, controlling. It just happens. And whatever happens is the thing to happen, is the perfect thing to happen. And it will happen in the perfect manner. And now that state of life is awareness. That state of life is fulfillment. And that is why we call it intuitive living. And then from there is nothing but consciousness. The master says you can, up to the human sublimation level, sense management, you must pursue. After that, 99.9%, I would say, is a divine grace. And for that, we need a teacher, a guru, who will take us from awareness to consciousness. After a certain limit, the mind has got no role. See, once we have to reach that consciousness level, this manifested world should mean nothing. So, which means this mind should mean nothing. Only when we learn to cross this section, then only we can experience that supreme. Hence, that level is purely divine grace. And that is why we need a guru at that level. Obviously, we need guru at every level to some extent. But the self-taught, self-effort can be, think, in a relative world up to the human mind, sense management, sublimation, which is an intuitive living style. So you can see the whole gamut of what is mind. As we discussed, mind is two things. You have impulses and you have prana shakti, that is life force. Impulses and prana, these two create the sedimentation, and these two manufacture mind. The mind's projection is this world, and mind sedimentation is the causal body. So causal body is the cause for our birth and rebirth and coming back, and the manifestation is this experience of the relative world. Now, whichever we feed, whichever impulses we feed, whichever way we handle our prana, our breaths, our life cycle, we lead from a lower mind to the awareness stage of life. So if we look at the whole gamut, we can self-assess to know where we stand. Sometimes it can be a mixture. I can say that I'm between ordinary mind and human mind, or superhuman mind, or whatever. So we can play this, just for an idea. I don't say that this is like a hard and fast diagram. It has taken a lot of people's thought to even get into this kind of a diagrammatic presentation. But the basic idea behind the whole thing is that how do I really take this concept and understand how to live our life purposefully? How do I make my life more meaningful? How do I live in a manner that I don't accumulate, I don't bind myself further and further? And what is the manner in which this mind of mine can help me to realize my fulfillment, can help me to realize my true potential, my own fulfillment experience? So this is the whole gamut. Now I open the floor for any questions. We are, yeah, I think I'm on time, so it's okay. I'll just go through it. If anyone has put up any good questions here. How do you remove your vasanas? I have already discussed that. I hope these vasanas, see, pure, impure impulses, first focusing more on pure impulses to negate the impact or the influence of impure impulses, and then at the same time not getting attached to or take credit of the pure impulses. So the activities involved with pure impulses, like, let me take it back if you just want to show you this diagram. Yeah, so if you look at this diagram, you will see that if we focus on, sorry, I wanted to open this diagram for you to just to get an idea. So if you look at the impure impulses, the idea behind is very simple. If you don't get attached to impure impulses, the craving part should be removed or reduced. And the more we move towards pure impulses, the impure impulsive impact will come down. And non-attachment to pure impulses will help us to move forward. So it is a both ways we have to play. Give first stress to pure impulses from impure impulses, and non-attachment to both will lead us further. Okay. How do you differentiate between non-attachment and detachment? Non-attachment and detachment. Uh, Auntie Geeta, thank you. The question is, how our master explains it is like attachment of a principal of a school is, it's like a very beautiful example of detached attachment. So he is totally attached to the school. He passionately works for school. He's even worried not of every children, but even of furniture. Even if anybody breaks a chair, he's concerned because he's the principal of the school. But the moment school gets over and children go back home, he does not call around every home to find out how's my baby doing. So basically, he has attachment to do his duty. At the same time, he entertains detachment once it is over. Like Swami's attachment, you see, whenever anywhere our master used to take up an activity, for example, he would jump into an activity full. But once the activity is done, like a super specialty hospital is made, the next day onwards, he looks for something else. So the point is detached attachment, that I am attached to the act, not of the consequence and the result of it. So there is nothing ownership about it. I'm passionate, but at the same time dispassionate. I'm passionate to do it. If it happens, good. If it doesn't happen, so be it. I'm neither going to kill myself for not doing it or not get elevated because I did it. The point is, I did it because I felt it. I felt good about it. I wanted it. And I felt that that was the need of that hour. I did it. Now, what is the consequence of it? How will people respond? Those are not to be worried. So, if you look at non attachment and detachment, non attachment is sometimes you become a kind of, passive about your approach. Detachment is a very different attitude. But detachment can be a very passive attitude, that I'm not attached to you at all. Like a foreigner or a outsider, if something happens, you don't feel it. But if you know the person, then you have some attachment, some kind of a feeling comes to you, right? So that is detached. So detachment is passive, whereas non-attachment is active. So I am attached but detached, because my detachment is also active and my attachment is also active. I am detached because I realize the truth of my attachment. I am attached to my body. I eat properly, I sleep properly, I exercise properly. That is my attachment to the body. But my attachment is a detached attachment because I know it can drop any moment. So the more I'm aware of myself and I am aware of the final purpose, then this attachment is a detached attachment. And I have to be passionately attached to my body to take care of it. If I need medication, I must do it. If I need exercise, I must do it, because that is my duty. And that is what non attachment gives you, not detachment. So, detachment is not possible. That is why even the masters would tell you the true detachment is not possible as long as you have body consciousness, because body is the first attachment. So, when you have body consciousness, you cannot have detachment. So that is why they say go for attaching yourself to something higher. So you are attached to X, get attached to Y, and X attachment will come down. So if you're attached to the world, how do I reduce it? Attach yourself to God. So the more you go higher and higher attachments, the lower attachments fall off. Because practically speaking, detachment is not possible as long as we have body consciousness, because it stems from the duality concept. So that is why detachment is passive, in which there is a neglect, there is a kind of I don't care attitude. But non-attachment, when I refer to non-attachment, it is basically a detached attachment, a passionately dispassionate, dispassionately passionate, dispassionately passionate, detached attachment. These are the key words for me. Okay, any other questions? Soham Mantra will set right. Thank you. Can we say mind is part of consciousness? Oh, certainly. Certainly. At one point of time, the mind merges in consciousness. So if you look at the whole mind concept, it is, as we have understood, is the mind is bundle of thoughts. Where are the thoughts coming from? Super consciousness. So the mind is a manifestation from the consciousness, which has all the attributes and the elements of the consciousness. And that in our body is also there, the same hierarchy. So yes, mind is part of consciousness. Thank you, Brother Udaya. Sure. So any other, if you have any questions, I think I have done my time. And thank you all for participating. I only request you all, if you have any, I'm choosing this topic based on your feedback and responses. So if you have any suggestions for new topics or any thoughts, any questions, please feel free to write to me and send us a note or an email or a WhatsApp, or message it here. Please do leave comments on the YouTube section under the video, and that would help others. And if you have any thoughts, please do mention. We always make sure to read it and respond. And if there is anything you feel we can discuss here, it'll be an honor and a pleasure. And whatever possible from my side, I would be happy to do that. So I'm selecting it based on these kind of feedbacks. So I once again thank you all for joining and sharing this beautiful moment with us. And if you have not subscribed, please go and subscribe my channel so that you can get more videos and you can look at it. And it seems you have to press some bell icon to get intimation. So all the best. Thank you very much, and wish you safe and happy life. Sayam. Thank you.